What's up, everybody? I'm Nick.
I'm Tim. How you guys doing?
Welcome back to the Elevator Life.
Yeah. Going strong here. The weather's been insanely crazy here in Guangzhou the last few weeks. Monsoon season.
It's an awful, awful season to be in southern China. Luckily here, unlike the Pacific Northwest where it rains for 10 hours at a time, you're looking at a hard 15 to 20 minutes and then it kind of clears up and it actually cleans the air. So, you know, for once the environment is actually kind of fresh and friendly here in, you know, production capital of the world.
You know the craziest part about it is it gets literally dark, like it would be 6 p.m. back home, like dark, 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 and it could happen any time of the day, where it's like almost black, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's just, you can hardly see through the rain, it's so thick.
We were at Subway and I looked outside and I was like, we were at Subway for lunch. I looked outside and I was like, oh no, because I didn't bring an umbrella because I thought we could beat it and we didn't. So I ended up getting soaked and my wallet and my phone and all that. But luckily we only live like 2-3 minute walk from Subway, so we rushed home and we're all good besides, you know, our wounded dignity at all the Chinese people laughing at us as we ran by. But other than that, no problems.
I'm walking with my umbrella, holding my shorts up.
it was a sight.
Looking like a foreigner.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, a few updates for us. Let's see. Nope, this charismatic t-shirt. We're both repping Chinese colors. He has red and yellow. I'm just rocking my yellow tee. Quick history about that shirt. Hit him with the knowledge, Tim.
We actually just won. I play on a basketball team here, a Chinese basketball team, and we just won Guangzhou, the #1 team in Guangzhou, meaning full paid trip, expenses all covered to Beijing. Yeah. So that was pretty exciting. That was pretty fun.
I was pretty pumped at first when he said we, because I thought he wasn't going to include the fact I'm on the team. I could have been, but I was a little injured at the time and I wasn't quite in the shape I was.
Of course.
You know, in college. Yeah, I'm crazy at point guard, trust me. Anyways, I'm rocking my shirt too. This is a Fudan University shirt from Shanghai, my alma mater here in China back in 2009, which kind of you know, inspired us to where we are now.
Your glory days.
Yeah, back in the day. You should have seen me. Now I'm just old and getting aged. But let's see, a few other updates. Still going on at Canton Fair, actually, which is pretty exciting. As we said in an earlier post, we love it because there's a huge influx of foreigners, and they're all obviously here to do some sort of international business, whether that's their company, they're working for a company, or it's, you know, small business, big corporation. Everybody's here who's involved with some sort of trading, so, you know, a whole bunch of different faces and guessing name tag names, you know, and all that kind of fun business that goes along with Canton Fair.
Yeah, it's really exciting for us. You know, this is the time in the year where the entrepreneurial light, the concentration is really here on Guangzhou, on China, that, you know, and that's our strong suit. So during this time of year, we get a lot of, you know, calls, a lot of messages from other entrepreneurs. It's huge for our networking. This is a great time of year. It's got a great vibe going on. And you've got big name entrepreneurs coming through, you know, meeting us, going to the Canton Fair all the time. So, you know, the 3 weeks of the Canton Fair are really one of the best times of the year for us being here in Guangzhou.
A lot of people say, oh wow, you're based here in Guangzhou, and you say, yeah. And there's a lot of admiration and respect for that, which is awesome, but it's just, you know, it shows that you're really in it to win it here in China. You're dedicated to the lifestyle out here and making business work, and everybody knows that's no small task when you're a foreigner, so yeah, it's a good time for us.
Yeah, there's some other good parts about it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, that's true too.
Well, one last exciting note. Today, we just realized we've been working a lot, and so we decided to book tickets to Boracay. Not in advance either. We're going really soon here. So some well-needed, well-deserved rest and relaxation down in the Philippines.
Yes, yeah. My dad was actually born in the Philippines. Grew up there the first 5 years of his life. I'm not going to his little barrio, as they call it, but I'm actually going to, like Tim just said, Boracay. Beautiful, nice, long, white sandy beach, and seafood, hopefully scuba diving, snorkeling. Relaxing is the main point, so that's what we're really looking forward to.
Gil, if you're listening, we did consider it heavily, but, you know, Boracay really just seemed to suit us best, I feel like, right?
Yeah, Dad, I'll be to your hometown next time, I swear. And that was like an 8-hour bus and some other business, but, you know, when I have the time. Right now I don't have the time. But what we do have time for now, let's jump into the topic. And what we're going to be discussing
Let's
is
get to it.
Niche markets in China, and why that's kind of a the onomatopoeia, or what's that alliteration or whatever it's called that it's supposed to be.
I have absolutely no idea. That's too smart for me.
All right, I learned it. I learned it in middle school. You know, a niche, you know, like a big little fish or something like that. I don't know. It's a play on words where it's kind of funny because it doesn't really make sense, and that's exactly how we think of niche markets in China. Because that whole saying niche would refer to something small, when in fact a small market in China is a very large market anywhere else in the world. If you want to share a little more about that.
Yeah, like Nick was describing. That's our subject. You know, we're talking about niche markets. And what is a niche market in China, and why should you care about it nor understand it? So niche markets. Normally we all know what a niche market is, you know, picking a small segment of a larger group and targeting that. The meaning in China. We heard this from actually a wine consultant that we met in the very beginning when we just started considering wine. And I'll never forget when he said, "You're targeting China. Why? China is many, many, many countries in one. You only need to take a little part of the country and you'll still be really successful." Yeah. And I don't think either of us have ever forgotten that since he said that.
Yeah, no, he made a great point, and the truth is that the population here, it's a fifth of the world's population. It's four times and change what it is in the United States. And you know, there's a whole bunch of brands that, you know, stick to Washington and Oregon, or stick to strictly California, and those aren't considered, you know, niche brands. Oh yeah, you know, it's a big brand. In-N-Out Burger, Arizona, California, I believe Nevada as well. You know, that's 3 states. That's not a niche brand by any means. But China, if you stick to Guangdong province, you're looking at 100 million people plus, which is a third of the United States. So
yeah. You know, niche markets is a really important concept. You know, and something, you know, that's really interesting to me when looking at it, just like we didn't really consider that, you know, because you got your 3 huge, okay, Shenzhen will consider 4 huge marketplaces, 4 huge main tier 1 cities. And so when companies are coming in here, you know, our expertise is wine, but you think, okay, how can I get into Guangzhou? How can I get into Shanghai? How can I get into Beijing? How can I get into those 3? But what a lot of people don't realize is, why get into Shanghai and Guangzhou? Those are so different, so far apart that, you know, you're really stretching yourself too thin. So our main topic today, and what we want to preach, is that, you know, if you're trying to penetrate the Chinese market, you don't need to concentrate at China. You need to concentrate on one small segment and the little pieces around it, and that will be sufficient, especially in the beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly. What he said at the very beginning of this wine consultant we met, he was, you know, don't concentrate on the whole country. And again, you know, Shanghai, nearly 30 million people. Guangzhou and Shenzhen together, nearly 30 million people. Those are huge, huge markets for your brand, for your product. And as I just said earlier, you're looking at a much larger audience. The scale is much larger here. The population is a lot more dense. In regards to malls and foot traffic, people walking by your store, your retail outlet. Overall, the numbers will be much higher in 1 or 2 cities over, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 states in the U.S.
Yeah, so that's the first major point. You don't need to look at China as a whole. China is separate in and of itself in each main of the tier 1 cities, okay? And so the next point that everyone misses on is the north and the south, okay, and even each city on its own. Because China being so big, each city has its own culture, it has its own past, and where most of its residents came from, okay? And that will heavily weigh on how your products do, your penetration proposals, all that will heavily weigh on, you know, your strategy. And a lot of companies do not understand that. And it's hard, it was very hard for us to grasp. But, you know, certain products will work in one place, certain products might not work so well in other places. And so that's the second point that needs to be, you know, made clear to people, is that each place, you know, Shanghai is extremely different from Guangzhou. Yeah. And so, you know, those are theoretical, or not, I don't know if theoretically is the right word, but they're really like 2 different countries. You don't go, okay, let's go into Shanghai, let's go into Guangzhou. It's like, how are we going to go into Shanghai? We need that plan. Well, how are we going to go into Guangzhou? We need that plan, you know?
I mean, take it a step further, Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Guangzhou has over 2,000 years of history. Shenzhen is less than 30 years old, and they're comparable in size. And what Tim just said, you know, we hear from Chinese people all the time, oh, the people from city A are not better than our city, or oh, the people from city B are different because blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's, you know, the type of food, maybe it's, you know, what's culturally accepted. Obviously the language, there's over 54 languages spoken within China itself. It's just...
That's dying.
Yeah, that's dying. They're making Mandarin Chinese, like, the universal language. Yeah, the national language will be Mandarin. But I mean, even here in Guangzhou, if you hear someone speaking Cantonese, then it's obvious that they're local, which is, you know, more respected. But yeah, there's so many factors that really go into the fact that one province even is just so much different from its neighbor for the reasons, you know, beyond history, including culture. There's just so many different factors that really go into finding the right place for your product that you really have to do your due diligence to make sure, you know, you would not want to attack Beijing with product A if they don't even, you know, look at it, pay attention to it, when down in Shenzhen, product A is exactly what is missing in the market.
Yeah, so yeah, first we stated you don't want to treat China as one country. You know, it's so big, so vast, it's like many countries in one. You're not going to have the resources nor want to spend the money to try and attack all of it. After that, you know, each city and each location in China is like its own culture. You know, each requires its own implementation strategy. Yeah. You know, you just can't take all of them at once, nor do you want to. And taking that even further, let's kind of talk about the history of each location. You know, each location, say Shanghai and Beijing, those are by far more westernized than, say, Guangzhou. And like you just mentioned a little bit ago, is the history that plays a very, very big role in it. The Canton people, you know, very, very long history there. Shenzhen, the new city, just like, you know, a few decades it's been here, that is very Western. You know, it's built, you know, on Western companies and all that kind of stuff. Apple's there. Okay, so let's take it further and let's talk about, okay, where do most of the companies, when they come to China, most of the, let's say, Western companies go when they first come to China? Yeah. Beijing, Shanghai.
Exactly.
Always, right?
Yeah, of course. Shanghai is known as like the Westerner capital in China, and then, like you said, Beijing, you look to the politics. Obviously, it's the capital. It's like a Washington D.C., if you will. Guangzhou is a very historically important city in China. You know, over 2,000 years. It was kind of also the gate to the West in the past, the end of the Silk Road. And then Shenzhen, through foreign direct investment, when Deng Xiaoping started the Special Economic Zones, the SEZs, Shenzhen is one of the biggest ones and made up of a majority of outsiders, not from Guangdong province, and foreigners, because it's also neighboring Hong Kong. And, you know, you can find, like Dunkin' Donuts. I remember Tim and I saw that there when we first visited, you know, for more than just on our way through to Hong Kong. And, you know, we're just in awe that an hour away Dunkin' Donuts can be found. And there's nothing even similar.
Nothing in Guangzhou.
Talk about a niche market, donuts in China, but it's a franchise and a brand over there that's doing very well. So,
yeah, you know, and that's an important aspect to realize, you know, for a lot of companies that are coming in here. It's, you know, they're so differently westernized that a lot of the companies, for that reason, go into those certain, you know, markets. You know, Shanghai is almost always number one, Shanghai or Beijing. And we've noticed kind of an interesting effect coming from that, is that most companies, say if they're beer, wine distributor, a franchise, anything like that, they're coming into those two cities. And so they'll start developing there, and because it's so large up there, they'll develop a store, another store, and, you know, it'll take them a few years to even start considering the move to Guangzhou and Shenzhen. And that gets back to our first and second points, is they're completely different. You know, those guys, once they start in Shanghai, it takes them a while to be able to build up connections, understand the culture, and implement a successful strategy that can work down in South, because it's so different than North. So that's a little message to entrepreneurs like us and to other people that are importing here, is that if the big companies are certainly focused on, say, the North, and it's hard for them to come down to the South immediately, what should we be doing? Small entrepreneurs like us need to be focusing on one niche market and a niche market that's going to be best for our products.
Exactly. And like you said, there is no national marketing or campaign plan. That you just can't do that here. You just said it perfectly.
Unless you got a ton of money.
Yeah, unless you got a ton of money, you can just flood the market until they, unwillingly take your product in. But yeah, if you have to do your research and see where you think your product will fit best with reasoning, and obviously do more than just your research. Get in touch, see how it really will do. It's easy with the way we can connect today. Get in touch with locals, get in touch with other foreign companies out there, and be able to just see, okay, this would be successful or this wouldn't be. And it's I can tell you right now, we're in Guangdong. Next to us is Guangxi. On the other side is Fujian. Above us is Hunan. All of those, different cuisines, different dialects, different kind of histories, and also different kinds of way of thinking. Your traditional versus your entrepreneurial, everything, even regarding business, family lifestyle, all that stuff really is different in these neighboring provinces, which is incredible.
Exactly. So we talked about multiple countries in China, and so the north and the south are just vastly different. Yeah. One last thing that we've noticed, especially down here in the south, that's been good for us is what I just mentioned a little bit earlier. Nick kind of touched on is a lot of the big companies have gone into, say, a Shanghai, a Guangzhou, and even a Shenzhen, because it is so close to Hong Kong. That's where a lot of Western companies have made the jump, because it is a lot more westernized, and so right in the beginning when you're showing your product, it will be accepted, because there's a lot more Western products. It's more open there.
It's readily accepted.
Exactly. What we've been noticing, and being located here in Guangzhou, that Western products, Western companies, a lot of imported products are behind here.
Oh yeah.
Meaning, for us, there's a lot more opportunity in a country like this. And I remember, we'll kind of start to wrap it up. I remember a meeting we had yesterday with a guy that owns a few franchises here. And he goes, food and beverage in Guangzhou is behind the curve. It is going to explode here, in the next 5 to 10 years because of that fact that, it starts up north, starts in Shenzhen, and then it will start to move. But it is so big, and this process is so long that it hasn't gained the momentum to be able to spread all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. And where it's behind here, but everybody knows China grows fast. So you can't be behind you can't be behind the curve. You got to be in front of it if you want to take advantage of these opportunities. And if you do, we know 2 guys you can talk to if you have an idea, and we'll see how we can help you out and guide you. So I think that about wraps it up with us. Again, really exciting times over here. Remember, China is too big unless you're a big multinational conglomerate to take over. It's focused on a certain area where there's already a huge population and a huge potential, for growth, and access that market that you can have the most potential success in.
Niche markets in China. Multiple countries, multiple customs. Very vast difference between north and south. So for small entrepreneurs looking to, take advantage of this country, look for where your advantage is and concentrate on that. Niche markets.
Yeah, that's perfect. Hope you guys have a good week. Again, any questions, any comments, we'd love to hear from you. Get at us on Twitter, Facebook, or obviously on our website. So until next time.
Yeah, we love hearing from you guys. We're off to Boracay. See you there.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye.
See ya.